Okay, so today's topic is smoking and the evolving halacha of smoking. Because it's important to keep in mind that halacha bases itself on the best practice and the best knowledge of the professionals in those fields at the time. And the psak will be based upon what the understanding is. Just like we might have some psak halacha today, that 50 years from now we'll realize that this thing is terrible for us and that whatever it might be. Okay, so first I want to give thanks to Or Sameach and their on their website they have a list of wonderful halachic articles, and I drew my sources from there. So let us begin. Smoking. We're going to be discussing smoke. We'll start off smoking on Yom Tov, which is where the halachas we're really discussing. But that has evolved beyond smoking on Yom Tov to smoking at all. What will the halacha be with such a practice? So let us begin with the psukim in Parshas Bo, from where we derive that the halachas of Yom Tov are different than the laws of Shabbos. Whereas we can discuss smoking on Yom Tov, clearly there's no one dares to speak about smoking on Shabbos. So the pasuk says, Shivat yamim matzot tochelu, 7 days you should eat your matzot. Ach b'yom harishon, on the first day, actually it's the day prior to Pesach, tashbitu su'ori vatechem, you have to clear away all of the leaven from your houses. Ki kol ochel chametz, anyone who eats chametz, u'nichrata nefesh ahi, that soul will be cut off. Mi Yisrael, mi yom harishon, vad yom hashvi'i, from the first day until the 7th day. Uva yom harishon, mikra kodesh. The first day there'll be a holy calling. Yom hashvi'i, and on the 7th day, mikra kodesh. Kol malacha lo yaseh bahem. All malacha, all of these creative activities that are forbidden on Shabbos, one can also not do on Yom Tov. Ach, however, but asher ye'achel, that which is eaten, l'chol nefesh, to all people, hu levado yaseh lachem, that alone one can do. That is malacha that one can do. Okay, so here's the pasuk that lets us know that Yom Tov, as the Mishnah Megillah says, Ein bein Yom Tov l'Shabbos ela achilas nefesh bilvad. The difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov when it comes to the prohibitions is, when it comes to that which is or is not prohibited, is achilat nefesh bilvad. It is eating. Yes, Steve?
Nefesh refers to humans? Or?
Yes. Okay, so on the bottom of that first page, let us go to Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, Hilchot Yom Tov. This is the beginning of the laws of Yom Tov, Siman Taf Tzadi Hey, right, chapter 495. Eizu malachot asurim b'Yom Tov. Which malachot, which acts, which creative activities are asurim b'Yom Tov. Kol malacha asura b'Shabbat, asura b'Yom Tov. The very first page on the bottom. All malacha that is prohibited on Shabbos is prohibited on Yom Tov. Chutz mimalechet ochel nefesh, except for ochel nefesh. And the Mishmur brings the pasuk we quoted above, as it says, Ach asher yechol chol nefesh adam, chol nefesh hu levado yaseh lachem. The other exceptions are v'chutz mehotza'ah, carrying outside of an enclosed Erev area, v'hav'ara, and burning, right? Fires. Now, we can't start a fire, we don't extinguish a fire, but we can pass a fire from one existing flame to another existing flame. So that's what gives us some of the parameters of Yom Tov and the allowances that we make on Yom Tov. Now, before we get to the question of smoking on Yom Tov, interestingly enough, there is a halacha, there's a question about making a bracha before smoking. Yeah. Let's take a look. If you turn the page, the top, which is Hilchos Brachos, Birkos HaPeiros, the laws of the blessings over fruits, Siman Reish Yud, which is chapter 210. Here, the Shulchan Aruch is not discussing smoking. Shulchan Aruch discusses someone hatoim et hatavshil, by the arrow there, the first arrow, the top arrow. Hatoim et hatavshil. Let's say a person is just tasting I'm making something. I want to taste it to see if I need to add anything. Einot tzarich levarech. I don't need to make a bracha, even if I'm going to swallow it, according to this first opinion. Because my intention is not eating, my intention is tasting. Ad revi'it, that's up until a certain amount, the revi'it, let's say about 4 ounces. The afilu imhu bolo, even if I swallow it, my intention is not the pleasure of eating, the benefits of eating, my intention is to taste it. V'yesh omer, and there are those that say shimhu bolo ta'un bracha. There are those that say no. If you're going to swallow it, you definitely need to make a bracha. Lo patru etatoim ela kishechozer v'polet. What we are exempting is a person who's tasting and then he removes it, spits it out from his mouth. There, the person ends up tasting a lot. He repeatedly keeps tasting it, adding and tasting. As long as a person does not swallow, a person does not need to make a bracha. Usfeik bracha lahakel. And the Ramah says, even in the first case where you're swallowing it, right? So there's an opinion that said you do, and an opinion that said you don't. We go lenient with a bracha, and we would not make a bracha in such a case. Now, the second arrow in the Mishnah Brura, va'otan shenotnin esav shekarin tabak. Those who take this growth known as tobacco, and they put it letoch shvoferet, and they put it into a shvoferet, into a tube, u'madlikin oto, and then they light it on fire. V'shovin ha'asham b'fiyem, and then they suck that smoke into their mouths. Doesn't sound all that intelligent, does it? For those who do that, nistapek ha'magen Avraham bazeh. The Magen Avraham is unsure. Ihavi ketoem upolet. Is that considered like one who tastes and spits out? Or is that considered like one who tastes and swallows? V'az afilu, I'm sorry. V'acharonim ichlitu, and the later authorities, halachic authorities, decided b'pshita clearly she'ein levarech al ishun hatabak hazeh, that one would not make a bracha on the smoking of tobacco. But this again just gives us an idea of how it was viewed. Because if you're doing something that is mazik, that is harmful to your body, if you're eating something that is harmful to your body, one would not make a bracha on that. So clearly, the mindset was such that it was very different than today. I took the liberty of, this is a commercial from 1950.
camels were smoked by cigarettes?
Okay, so
Tobacco that you chew.
hmm?
Tobacco that you put in your mouth and you chew and don't smoke.
You spit it.
Well, they do spit it out, they don't swallow it.
Yeah, that would be like chewing gum, I believe, and also we would not make a bracha on that. It's not considered you getting any substance. Okay, let's come now to the question of smoking on Yom Tov. Okay, so here the Shulchan Aruch, which is on the bottom half of the second page. Here he discusses putting incense onto coals on Yom Tov. Bein la'ariach, bein l'gamer habayit or kelim, whether it's to make a nice fragrance in the house or to give a nice fragrance for a person to smell, or for the house, or for different garments. Okay, so that is what the halacha is discussing over here, and we say that you're not allowed to do it. Why? Because that is something she'eno shaveh l'chol nefesh. Remember the psukim that we quoted originally said that which is ochel l'kol nefesh, for all people. Meaning it's something, doesn't have to mean 100%, but it's something that most people are involved with. And this is not for most people. This is lema'u nagin. This is for the fine schmeckers amongst us, right? Those who are, very, very refined. So they need to have this incense burning. Velo hutar biyom tov. And it's therefore not allowed on Yom Tov, the Shulchan Aruch says. And then the Mishnah Berurah says, Ule'inyan shtiyat titun biyom tov. But when it comes to this tobacco, they call it drinking tobacco, right? That's a term that was used, right? Ayin b'bir halacha. See the bir halacha about what he has to say. And over here in the Bir Halacha, which is on the left-hand column, if you just follow me, the parts that I underlined, we'll get a little bit of a survey of the different opinions. When it comes to smoking cigarettes on Yom Tov, there are different deyot amongst the poskim. There are those who say it's aser, that's the Magen Avram, the Karban Esanel, the Chaye Adam. Mishum dahavara zo eino shaveh b'chol nefesh. What would a reason be to prohibit the smoking on Yom Tov before we understand how it's medical suicide? Before we understand that, what would the issue be based on what we just saw over here by the incense? What would an issue be to say it's prohibited on Yom Tov?
The lighting.
Okay, the lighting, but I can get it from an existing flame.
Where does it start from? From the...
I have a candle lit before Yom Tov.
But it's only a subpopulation of people, so it's
Good.
not the...
It's not shaveh l'kol nefesh. Like the incense that we just mentioned before, it is something for a subpopulation, not for the general population. Therefore, it's not shaveh l'chol nefesh. It's not something that is for the general population, and therefore it's not allowed on Shabbos, just like we said above by the incense. Further, on Yom Tov. Thank you, Doug. The gam de matzibo kiboy. Now, even if you'll be careful not, to get it from an existing flame, but often a person, right, there might be elements of extinguishing that go along with that. Right? Normally, what do? Right, you'll throw whatever. Let's say I took a match to an existing flame, right, and then I lit the cigarette. Now, what do I do with the match? Usually, you throw it down. V'harbe mikilin, but he says there are many who are lenient. That's the Darchei Noam, the Birkei Yosef, right? The Iker Tam Kulam, and their main reason is Mishum da'achshav sheharbe regilim bezeh nasa shaveh b'chol nefesh. The popularity of smoking has spread, right? The tobacco industry, they are relentless in their trying to get more and more people to smoke and kill themselves in the process. And now it's become a situation where we would say it is shaveh l'chol nefesh. It's not a subpopulation, as Janet termed it, but it is what is prevalent in the general population. And therefore, according to them, you're allowed to smoke on Yom Tov. Just be very careful, right? Not to, to get it from an existing flame, and not to extinguish it at all. I'm skipping down a little bit, underlined, and the Shari Tshuva wrote, there are those who have the custom to be strict on the first day of Yom Tov, and on the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah, and to be lenient on the second day of Yom Tov. And we'll soon see what that will be based on, because we really don't differentiate between the first and second day of Yom Tov. The Cholzeh, but all this is dafka b'otam mekomot, only in those places sha'olam regilin bazeh, where the world is accustomed to it. V'udavar hashaveh b'chol nefesh, and therefore this would be considered something that is shaveh, that is relevant, that is utilized by kol nefesh, most of the population. De'ilav hachi, if that were not the case, midina asur, then based on that, and clearly halachically it is prohibited.
So,
at this point, it'll be very hard to make an argument to say that smoking is allowed on Yom Tov, and almost all the poskim have come out that smoking is not allowed on Yom Tov. Why? Even if we'll say that smoking is allowed at all, but on Yom Tov, to now say it's shaveh l'chol nefesh, right? It's very rare, very rare. Airplanes, no smoking. We all remember the days that there was a smoking section on the airplane, right? Restaurants, banks, public buildings. People are smoking away over there.
When I went to college, you smoked in the classroom.
Yeah. This commercial showed the doctor smoking as the nurse came in, right, to get some of the papers. Yeah. It wasn't known what it was. Not only was it not known, but fascinating, we're going to soon see some different teshuvos, right, that were from much earlier times, and we see how that is viewed. Okay, now, one of the most famous, and we're going to see how the poskim over time have changed. This is yes?
the more basic thing to get back on, if I missed, but isn't it generally a borderline thing of almost halachically not permitted any time because of the
Yes.
So,
Right.
So where's the rational? Is it because it's an addiction, or?
So let's go through, okay? Right? Now, we'll come to that a little bit. Okay. Rav Avadi Yosef, of blessed memory, Zatzal, in 1969, penned the following teshuvah, the following response. In there, he quoted from the Pnei Yehoshua. The Pnei Yehoshua, Rav Falk, in the 1700s, was one of the great Gaonim. And he writes, he's quoting from the Pnei Yehoshua now, that he originally thought to prohibit smoking on Yom Tov, it's not shaveh l'chol nefesh. However, right, and also, right, rechitzat kol haguf, right, washing the entire body, which is only for tanug, for pleasure, that one can't do on Yom Tov. And like the incense, one can't do on Yom Tov. But he realized that zeya, sweating, going into a sauna, going into a shvitz, that is shaveh l'kol nefesh. It's not there for pleasure, ela lebriut. Why does one do it? At least then, it was thought to be healthy to go into a sauna. Perhaps it still is, I don't know. V'im kain, he says, gam mishum sigariut, tov lebriut haguf. Well, smoking cigarettes is also good for one's health. It helps to digest the food. It helps to inspire appetite. Now, even though some people also enjoy it, as long as it's medically beneficial, then the fact that it's enjoyable shouldn't be a reason to prohibit it. And therefore we should not prohibit it.
We went back and
Smoking
looked at
marijuana.
old newspapers. If you look at an old newspaper, 30s and 40s, there's doctors there telling you to smoke.
Yeah.
It's good for you.
It's good, exactly.
And actors are smoking. This is good for you.
Right. This is the right. Well, this shoe was written in the 1700s.
You were bad if you didn't
Right.
smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And he says most people smoke tobacco on Yom Tov, and many chacham and the gedolim and many great Torah leaders also do this, and therefore the Pnei Yehoshua is someone who is often quoted by the addicted as a source for it. But clearly his whole premise is based on that which has been clearly disproven. In the I'm on the last page, I apologize it came out so small. In the second paragraph there, he quotes from the Yavitz,
Yeah.
who also is discussing this, right? That we should not prohibit smoking because it's not shava l'chol nefesh, right? Because here it's for briyut. It helps to digest the food. And it also helps a person's mobility, tnuot haguf. And many people don't enjoy eating. They don't eat unless they smoke first. And therefore, you will diminish your pleasure on Yom Tov if you're not going to be eating. And this is fascinating. He writes, I heard from my father when I was young. He told us that he used to not. He treated it as being prohibited to smoke on Yom Tov. And then a Chassid Gadol told him he's not acting properly because he's holding himself back from enjoyment on Yom Tov. Since you're accustomed to doing it and you're not going to smoke on Yom Tov, you're taking away from your enjoyment of the holiday. And you're not allowed to cause yourself tsar, right? Anguish on a holiday. And therefore he said, I started smoking again, even on Yom Tov. Right? But, and this is still, that's quoting from much earlier, right? The Pnei Yehoshua was in the 1700s, the Chacham Tzvi, who told the story, was in the 1600s. Or Rabbi Yosef is writing this, he's quoting these different sources in 1969. Then he brings other opinions. The Shaylos of Chuvos, Amudei Or, that after he spoke, right, he goes up and back, he comes out that it is prohibited. Now also he says, right, it was in the 1960s really that I think the American Lung Association or American Medical Association came out with very clearly, right, not as clear as it is now, but clearly that it's not healthy. Now the doctors, Sefer Refuah, in the medical books, they're warning that a person should not get too accustomed to smoking cigarettes, and therefore it might even be an Isser Torah, a prohibition from the Torah. And therefore, nowadays, he said, where it's very clear that this is dangerous and it could cause lung cancer, right? Therefore, it would seem the smoking is not good for the health. It's opposite. It's very harmful. However, which was the thinking then in the late 1960s, right? So he writes, so if the whole foundation of the heter is because it's good for the health, now we see it's not good for the health. However, we could say, again, which was the prevalent thinking in the 1960s when Rav Avadia wrote this, it could be that we'll say that when it comes to tobacco, there is good and bad. It's good for digestion, which what they still thought then in the 1960s. Keep in mind, we're talking about 40 years ago.
40, 55 years.
Yep. Right? Ach b'chol zot mazik l'reyot. But it harms the lungs. This was an earlier teshuvah. However, later on, right, the poskim nowadays, in the past 10, 15 years, Rav Moshe Sternbach, Rav Asher Weiss, they say the question now is not smoking on Yom Tov. The question is is it permitted at all?
So that's what I was.
Yes. Rav Moshe Feinstein Zatzal, he wrote a tshuva a few months after the Surgeon General's report, and this is still early in the 1960s. He came out much more strongly against it later as the medical evidence became clear. So then he wrote, it's appropriate to abstain from smoking, but you can't say that it's absolutely asur, right? He put smokers into the category of shomer pitayim Hashem. God watches over the fools. Okay? And he says, since many of the great Torah leaders smoked, you can't say it's asur, right? And once again, many people who are trying to hold on use that as something to base it on. But contemporary authorities, as it became clearer and clearer that how dangerous it is, a 2013 report, right, is that recent studies show that smoking kills 2/3 of smokers. Okay? 67% of deaths of smokers is linked to their habit of smoking. Okay? Yeah. So once that became clear, then it became universally acknowledged that smoking itself is something. Now, if a person is addicted, and there were many, many great rabbis, Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky Zatzal, who once he was told about the health effects, he stopped. Cold turkey. Right? He just stopped. If a person is addicted, right, so then a person needs to try to wean themselves off. But the contemporary authorities that he quotes here include Rav Elyashiv Zatzal, the Tzitz Eliezer, Rav Abba Shaul, Avad Yosef, right, who again, contrary to his psak in 1969, where he goes up and back, and his conclusion is that it's tov and it's ra, it's good, right? You can't say it's asur because where it has its benefits, it also causes its harm. Once it became very, very clear, then smoking is not allowed according to halacha. To start smoking is clearly not allowed, right? The person is already a smoker and continues smoking, and they're trying to get themselves off of it, so then that's what they need to do.
What's your obligation to try, though? What if you don't? You think it's going to,
You think it's going to what?
like, you'll be irritable or, have withdrawal for a while?
So
Is there
people,
an obligation to make that step?
I would imagine so, right? It's called a kol koreh, which is a public calling out that is signed by many of the Gedolim. This was in 2004, and that, right, against smoking, right, and imploring those who do smoke to do everything in their power to stop. Okay, right? They don't come out and say, it's an aveira too. The person is trying to stop and can't stop, so they'll probably still go into that category of shomer pitayim Hashem. At least we hope that God will watch over the fools, right? Those who signed on were Rav Elyashiv, Rav Leib Steinman, Rav Shmuel Shapiro, Rav Nissim Karelitz, Rav Shmuel Auerbach, now Shlomo Zalman, Rav Shmuel Auerbach. Okay, so many people started, right, before it was known. And for them, they need to try to do their best to extricate themselves. Yes, Dov?
I remember what I remember.
Okay. Now, once we have the knowledge, and it's important to keep in mind that what medicine said 50 years ago, we laugh at today, as we laughed at the doctor's commercial. And what we say now, 50 years from now, doctors will also be laughing. I've mentioned before, my father's one of the bracha had given me a book that was a compilation from articles of Reader's Digest. Reader's Digest, a long time ago, used to run a series. I am Jim's. I am Joe's eye. I am Jane's uterus. And it would, speak, in real layman's terms about the different parts of the body, and really niflaot habari, the wonders of the creation. So my father, used to read it, once a month, every other month they would have it, and that's how one would read it. But my father, there was a compilation of it, of all those articles. My father knew that I enjoyed that series, so he gave me the book. And it was very, very interesting, because once you're reading them one after another, then I noticed something that was very funny. Because in one article, they would say, scientists used to think, right? This is the part of the body speaking. Scientists, the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland. Scientists used to think that I was a useless relic of evolution. But now they realize that I control the hormonal flow in the body and the growth and on and on and on and on and on, the whole long list of all that it does. What was very funny reading the book is in the very next article, which you were reading 5 seconds later instead of a month or 6 months later, they would write, this is just a useless relic of evolution. So you wonder, don't they realize that just like their tongue is in cheek when they're talking about what doctors used to think, that once again they'll be tongue in cheek, right, discussing what they now think is cutting edge. So the halacha is going to be based on the understanding, the medical understanding. It's interesting, even the psychological understanding. Another issue where we've seen halacha evolve is in a case, no, I wouldn't say halacha evolved by organ donation. I would say the practices have changed. By organ donation, if when they were first taking organs, right, the person who was getting the transplant was going to die from it, right, which is a very high percentage, so then the person shouldn't do that, right? And when they're taking organs from a person only when they're alive, before they're considered halachically dead, right? The only things that have changed when it comes to organ transplant is the ability to utilize some organs after the person has died and to harvest them at that point. And there are different opinions if brain death is considered halachic death. Those who say that brain death is considered halachic death, so even though the heart is beating, it can be removed, and that's not considered murder, so then that opened up further availability. But I was going to, yes?
Well, it was kind of a side note, but I was just going to ask you, it's taken off topic, but what's the opinion about harvesting from unborn fetuses, which has been in the news for some years?
If the child has died.
No, I mean, with the Planned Parenthood and the issues that have been in the news.
Abortion. To terminate the existence of the fetus.
Oh,
And then-
abortions? Is that the question?
They take it and they
Partial-
use it for
Yeah,
harvesting parts.
in practice, partial birth abortion, actually. where
In other words,
the fetus
they
is removed
they
from the fetus.
they had this baby in order to harvest parts of it. Is that what we're talking about?
No, they were gonna, the child was gonna be aborted anyway, then they would make use of the part.
But they, apparently according to the news, did the procedure in a way to preserve certain aspects of the fetus.
So I'm not up on this. My initial reaction would be there are times that abortion is halachically permitted, and there are times that it is prohibited. Okay, it depends on the situation, depends on many factors. In a situation where it is permitted to do the abortion, then it would make sense if that can be, if any parts of the body can be utilized to help others, then it would make sense to do so. In a case where it is prohibited to begin with, right, so then it would be really a moot question. Okay.
So you were saying
Yes.
it's evolved.
Another case where I would say the halacha has evolved is in how the family of, heaven forbid, Rahman al-Itzlan, a suicide victim reacts. Whereas it used to be considered, well, suicide according to the Torah is murder. Right? It's not that we're not allowed to take the life of someone else. We're not allowed to take a human life. Right? That includes one's own life. Right? And therefore, it used to be viewed that they might be buried in a different part of the cemetery. The family wouldn't fully sit shiva. There were these restrictions on that. However, nowadays we understand, and halacha views, that a person who commits suicide must have been in such a desperate, horrific, right?
Neurologically, chemically
Yeah.
altered.
I don't know.
And not external,
Let's
but
say-
internal.
Yes, right. The person was in such a state of mind of grieving, sick, depression, whatever it might be, that the person that we treat it really like any other death, and we don't differentiate with the understanding of what brings a person, Rahman al-Itzlan, right? Hashem should have compassion, to such a state. So that's another case where it has evolved. Now, with the knowledge that we have today, so I'd like to conclude with two halachos from the Rambam on the bottom of the third sheet. We have that both in Hebrew and in English, so follow along as you feel most comfortable. The first is Rambam and Maimonides in the laws of Deot. Being that a body that is complete and healthy, midarche Hashemu, is of the ways of God. A person cannot understand and have knowledge of his Creator. If he is in a physically impaired, sick state, a person must distance oneself from things which cause destruction, harm to the body, right? And rather become accustomed to things which make the body healthy and heal the body. Okay? And again, in the laws of Rotseach, the laws of murder, capital cases, Harbe Dvarim, with Halacha Hey, Harbe Dvarim Asu Chachamim. There are many things that the Chacham, the sages, prohibited, because it could cause danger. Chala over and anyone who goes against that. And says, hey, it's my life. I'm doing this to myself. What does anyone else have to say about it? Or doesn't care to put himself in a state of danger. Machinoto makat mardut. He will receive rabbinic lashes for this wanton attitude about life. Right? You know, there's a saying, right? You know, what was, what will be. I don't know exactly how it goes, right? But what happens now is a gift. That's why it's called the present. Right? So you need to look at, right, every moment that we have is truly a gift. And it is upon us to make sure that we safeguard this trust that God has given to us by giving us life every moment, and make sure to do things that bring about health and to distance ourselves from the things which cause harm. Certainly nowadays it is very clear, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that cigarettes kill. It is just beyond, right, the effect it has on us. And certainly no one should start smoking. Anyone who does smoke, based upon this Kol Koreh and others, should do their best to stop. Yeah, I think Steve, and then.
it's one thing if one is by oneself and doing something harmful to oneself. But it's another thing if what
Good
you're
point.
doing is
Good point.
causing harm to others.
Yeah,
Now, people
and the
that-
secondary smoke.
the secondary
See,
smoke.
that,
Po-
yeah,
Point well made. Point well made.
because it's almost like you'd say,
Yeah,
a smoker's a rodef in
Yeah.
that case. in
Yeah.
that
It's been said that if you're addicted to tobacco or nicotine, it's like being addicted to cocaine. When I was younger, both my parents smoked. Everybody smoked.
yeah,
They quit smoking when I was young. So I went up to my father. It's been 30 years since he quit smoking. I said, "Did you ever want a cigarette?" He said, "Yes, I would." And he said, "If I had that first cigarette, I'd be smoking 2 packs by the end of the day." This is what he had to put up with to quit smoking.
wow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of rough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and you really see just, you know, the
It's-
insidious
It's
um,
always there.
means of the industry to try to get people started early.
It's addiction, smoking, and what else? Drinking, alcohol. It's an addiction you have to stay away from. Even
Yep.
people have addiction to food. I mean, you can just start one
Yep.
thing and you
You-
can't finish. Stop
Yep.
eating. So it's an addiction to anything.
Kol olam kulo gesher tsar ma'od. The world is a narrow bridge.
But
Yes.
I
Let's sing
believe
it.
our body is our vessel that holds the neshama. And I really believe I do not do anything that will harm my body because God gave this to me and
Yep.
that's what I have to do.
I'm
every
with,
single
Yocheved,
day.
I'm with you on that.
You know how you wash
Absolutely.
a garment,
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
you would normally wash and take care of your
take
garment.
good care of
Has
it.
to take care of
Absolutely. Dove, thank you. Yes.
I was reading an article about foods that people thought were healthy. You buy it in a health food store,
Yeah,
and they found out that some of it was really harmful.
yeah. Eggs.
No, like
Liver.
raw milk. It's been causing a lot of illness.
Yeah,
That kind of thing. There's a whole list of things.
yeah. But growing up,
Yeah.
eggs, loads of eggs. Eggs are the best thing,
I
right?
know, eggs are wonderful.
Liver. Yeah,
They're terrific. Eggs.
yeah. Okay, a good day.